Welcome to Socially Sensitive Podcast. This is David. I'm your host, and I'm joined with
Wolfie. Man, you say that really fast.
He is back.
That was awesome. It's like, welcome to the Socially Sensitive Podcast. I'm David.
I've said it 1,000 times. Well, actually, awesome. 296 times, but
went to see the Flash movie. Kind of disappointed in it. It wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I thought the trailer looked really good, but all the reviews, I hadn't been reading a lot, but I'm kind of getting the surface level of some of the YouTube people talking about it, and like Nerdrotic, he was talking about how horrible it was. That it was slightly entertaining, but it was, I don't know, he called it a flop. But
yeah, it was a hot mess, Dave. It really was. And I'm a huge, or at least I used to be a huge Flash fan. When I was coming up, you know, I'd buy Flash comic books off the newsstand. And if I went to a comic book store or a convention when I was a kid, I was always looking for Flash. And that was one of the things I looked for. I looked for Flash. I looked for like Legion of Superheroes, Justice League, Green Lantern, a few other things like that. But I mean, you know, usually if I found a really good looking Flash comic, I would always buy it. Yeah. So it's probably one of the things one of my favorites when I was a kid. With the things that I was seeing and what I was hearing about it, I was like, oh, they're going to take the Flashpoint story and kind of make that.
Right.
And that's
that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
That was kind of what they did, because he goes back in time to save his mom's life.
Right.
But then that's really the only connection that they have to Flashpoint, is the fact that he does that in the movie. And the Flashpoint comic book I thought was just so good. I don't understand why they just didn't try to make that into a movie instead of doing what they did. Because, I mean, there were so many interesting things that happened in the Flashpoint comic, which they kind of touched on that with Kara being held by the Russians in that, where she was at, away from the sun. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's kind of similar to what they did to Clark in the comics. But one of the things that they didn't do, which I thought was probably one of the better things, or one of the better takes on the Batman mythos, was that in the alleyway where Bruce's parents originally get killed, it's Bruce that gets shot instead of the mom and dad. The mom, her mind just snaps at that point, and she becomes the Joker, and his father Thomas then becomes Batman. And I mean, I thought that is a good alternate take on the Batman mythos, and something worthy of exploring.
Right.
And I was hoping that they would do something like that with the Flashpoint thing, and the whole storyline that they did with the Amazons and the Atlanteans fighting each other and stuff like that. I'm like, this will be an awesome movie if they just basically follow this script. And they didn't. They just, you know, they took very little of the script and just said, okay, we're just going to turn it into Crazy Town. And it wasn't that good. I went because I was a huge Flash fan, and I really wanted to see it. And I really would have preferred if they would have let the guy from the CW be the Flash instead of the guy that they had. I'm pretty sure the only reason he got the movie is because he identifies as a they, them. And of course, that's probably why he got it.
Yeah, of course you gotta have that in, but
yeah, you gotta have that.
I don't know, something about almost every DC movie that comes out now. It's like I always get the feeling they're like, you know what? We got this really, really cool idea. We're gonna give you like this little piece of it, but we don't want to blow it all in one movie. So we're going to hang on to it and then just a little other. And the rest of the movie can be garbage, because we teased you enough with the trailer and the basic outline of the story to get you in the seat. But then we're going to save it for the next one.
Yeah, there's something like that going on too, I think. And I also seem to think that, like with the Batman Dawn of Justice, and me and you've talked about this in the past, that there was just too many storylines going on there at one time, because a lot of the stuff that was in that with the fight scene with Superman and Batman, that came straight out of Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. I'm sorry, the whole battle suit thing with the kryptonite dust in the air. Of course, the only thing that didn't happen in that fight scene was the fact that Green Arrow shot the arrow that exploded, and all the kryptonite dust came out of his arrowhead. Batman just produced it somehow miraculously, and it was in the air, and it zapped his strength, which is okay.
But they had to cram so much stuff into that movie to get every character caught up to date. Because, I mean, they were trying to do 10 years of catch up with Marvel.
Yeah, and
where Marvel has been building all of this for the decade. And then DC's like, oh, we got to cram it all into one movie. So that,
which
you know, we're on.
Done.
Right. They're like, we need to be on the same level as Avengers at this point by now with
right.
The Justice League and everything.
But here's the thing. It's like they just don't want to take the time and put in the time to get to that level.
Right.
Because Marvel did it right. They took their time. They're like, you know, they've put out several Spider-Mans. They put out a Captain America movie. They put out Iron Man movies. They put out Thor movies. They put out a couple of Hulk movies. They let you get introduced into these characters, and you see them and stuff like that. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, and then boom, they're like, okay, now let's bring all this stuff that we've been just a little here, a little there. Let's bring it all together. And let's make an Avengers movie now. Yeah. And that is how you do it the right way. Just like they should have done it with a Flash movie, a decent Green Lantern movie. We've had an Aquaman movie, and there's supposed to be another one coming out. The first one, I really liked the first Aquaman movie. Superman movies, Batman movies, we've been doing those for forever. Yeah. The Wonder Woman movie that they did, I thought was excellent, the first one. The second one was like, not so much. But yeah. I really did like the first one. I just think I really didn't like the fact that it was set in World War One. I felt like it should have been set in World War II, because that's when she originally comes out in the comics. It's World War II era. It's not World War One era. So I kind of wish that they would have went that route instead of the route they did, but it was still a really good, entertaining movie.
Right.
But see, building on your individual characters, build them up, let people get to know them, and you know, and then bring them all together. You know, maybe even have
DC has, I mean, some of the greatest characters that there are. I mean, Marvel has a lot of great characters. They both do.
Oh, sure.
But I don't know. A lot of DC ones just seem more iconic. I mean, when you're talking Batman, Superman, Flash. I mean,
yeah, well, sure, yeah, and Green Lantern, yeah. I mean, Superman. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's pretty much the beginning of the comic book, Long John Union suit superhero,
right?
Period. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there were probably things that were kind of went on before that, but I mean, he is iconically, and everything pretty much goes back to him, Superman. Yeah. He's the first one. After he comes out on the newsstand and everybody sees how popular it is, then all of a sudden you have an explosion of comic book companies and every kind of crazy superpower you can think of being put out there, you know, because of what he did. And then, of course, you got Bill Kane coming along and saying, hey, look, I want to make pretty much the opposite of Superman. Whereas this guy has like all these powers. I want just a basic guy.
He has no powers. He's just super rich and super intelligent, and he knows how to take what he has and use it to the best of his ability.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much where the beginnings of Batman started.
Yeah,
you know, him and Phil Finger got together and did that. So yeah. And like I said, they've got great characters. They really do. And I mean, as far as like penetrating the whatever it is, the socio whatever, you know, mindset. Everybody knows about Batman. Everybody knows Superman. You know. So what you got to do is, since everybody knows these two characters already, and they are very well established, you need to do things like that first Wonder Woman movie and make good quality movies and introduce the rest of your stable of characters to people so that they'll know, hey, you know, and they can thus become invested in the characters, because that's what they did with Captain America. They went back and showed his origin story and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Got you invested in the character. Same thing with Hulk and Iron Man and Thor. Really brought these characters out to the fore. That's why they had their own individual movies before they actually came together to do an Avengers movie. And they had a couple of Hulk movies, to introduce you to the characters and let you get to know them and stuff like that. Kind of like and then hit the big, team up.
With Iron Man, making that originally happen.
Mm-hmm.
That I guess that the studios then started taking comic book movies seriously.
Oh yeah.
Because up till then, I mean, we had some great. I mean, I like the early Batmans. I like the early Hulks and the Spider-Mans and the Sony Spider-Mans that they did, and the Tobey Maguire and stuff like that. But they were still, I don't know, they were still comic book movies. And then it seemed like after Iron Man, people still called them comic book movies, but they were more of an action movie then. Especially, I mean, now. But DC, to me, is still in that comic book movie phase. The old, before the original Iron Man, the way Marvel movies were doing it. That's how I still see all of the DC movies. Like, they're trying to be, not that I'm saying they shouldn't be comic booky, but I don't know. There's like there's a certain line, and I don't know where it is, or I would be working for DC making them destroy Marvel movies.
Make them toe the line,
right?
So that
but
they make better movies.
But so I mean, I don't know what it is, but I know there's some difference there between how they're doing it.
Here's the thing: I look at the Marvel movies more along the lines of, especially after Iron Man, of being like Bruce Willis in Die Hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Except Tony Stark isn't
John McClane.
Yeah, he's John McClane.
Yeah.
But he's Tony Stark, but he's presented as more of a John McClane type character. It's just what makes him stand out from everybody else is the fact that he was able to figure out how to make this Iron Man suit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Just and that's where Marvel, I think, it's just like in Captain America, same thing. He's John McClane.
Yeah.
He's John McClane that took this shot and got hit by these Vita rays, and now he's bulked up and he's a big guy, and he's got powers and he's got this shield that he throws around. But he's still just kind of like John McClane. It's just a regular guy with amazing abilities. I like that.
Right.
DC hasn't figured that out yet.
No, but see, Marvel takes that step back, I think, of sometimes when they've done it with some of their shows. I think like that Miss Marvel, the Captain Marvel show.
Yeah.
I think was kind of more back to the old comic booky way. See, Loki to me is the new stuff. Is like, even, I mean, regardless of when they were made, they always give me the feeling like they had different captains at the helm leading the direction of the ship.
Loki was a good show. She-Hulk sucked.
Right. They come across as a money grab. We're going to use comic booky characters, make them silly and ridiculous, and we'll throw in some cameos that we know people will love and applaud, and when you got campy.
They're going to be campy like the like the Batman from 1966.
Right. And
which,
the only reason that still holds up, because I've gone back and watched some of those old ones, but it's purely for nostalgia reasons, is the only reason it holds up.
And one of the reasons I say She-Hulk sucked, it's not necessarily that I don't like the idea of She-Hulk. One of the things that I thought just kind of sucked about it was the fact that there's no growth in her character. It's just like Bruce, he had to struggle all these years to be able to maintain the kind of control that he has over the Hulk, and she just has it from day one, just because some guy whistles at her on the street.
Right, yeah.
Like, I can control my temperature because of this. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of...
Because she's had a lifetime of of here's
Yeah.
how you have to control it to be a woman and survive in this
Exactly,
world.
because the
Yeah.
man's keeping you down, and
Yeah.
it's just a tired. It's BS bullshit.
But
You know,
yet she
the
still ended up,
patriarchy. I've had to live under the patriarchy. Well, hey, guess what, sister? I've had to live under the patriarchy too.
but
There's
she still
people,
ended
men
up
that are a
with
whole lot more
wanting
powerful than me.
to twerk with Megan Thee Stallion in her office. So
Yeah, yeah, and it's just it's stupid.
yeah.
It just was it was, and the fact that the freaking wrecking crew. This is a group of supervillains that give Thor and the Hulk, in the comic books, give them a run for their money.
Right.
Okay, when they come in, and she just all of a sudden just walks through them like
Yeah.
nothing. See, that's what I'm saying. There's no growth in the character at all. It's just like she's got total control over everything about her. She never gets, mad except for that one thing.
Right.
Uh,
But yeah, they skipped
and
all the
she and she
she
and she basically wipes the floor with these
right.
wrecking crew group of people who, like I said, have given Thor and Hulk a run for their money on different occasions because they are super powered. And of course, I think it's magic that powers them. But that's neither here nor there. It's just the fact that what, just because she's a girl, she can just walk through the wrecking crew like it's nothing, like they're
Right.
nobodies, like they're a joke.
To make it a little more relatable and enjoyable. Yeah, it helps to have some of that, that human touch, even though you are talking about a Hulk, but that personal, which I mean, she's still human, I guess.
Yeah, and
Just
it's all talked. It's
mutated.
not necessarily about just the Hulk, but I mean, it's just the fact that growth as a character. She came out. She was already perfect at pretty much everything, which made
Right.
her story arc just stagnant. There was no
Right.
place for her to go.
Right. So
You know,
then
there
they
was no.
have
There
to
was
take
nothing that
it
she was
from that
striving.
point to absurdity.
Not a bad way to go.
Yeah. Oh well. You have a good evening.
All right. See you later, Dave.
See you. Bye.
Bye.